special?
Journey to incredible destinations this summer on Sky Cinema.
Climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson pulled it in. The catch of his life.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older, then we wouldn't have to wait so long? And wouldn't it be nice to live together?
Sky Mobile sponsors the transfer window on Sky Sports News.
Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. Only 2 days, that is all, until the Premier League returns. There is plenty going on. Dharmesh Chef, Mark McAdam are here to bring us right up to date. On the way, Harry Maguire's turbulent 4.5 years at Manchester United are coming to an end. And United are already lining up replacements. The treble winners, Manchester City, want the Brazil midfielder Lucas Paqueta. But can West Ham afford to lose another key player? The latest on the talks between the clubs is on the way. And Bayern Munich and Tottenham are still locked in talks over Harry Kane. We have the very latest on the England captain's future. Right, we're going to start with Harry Kane. Dharmesh, is he almost out of the door at Manchester United
Harry Kane?
now?
Almost Harry Maguire.
Did I say Harry Kane?
It's an easy one to mistake.
Well, we normally start with Harry Kane. Let's go Harry Maguire.
It does, yeah. Look, it's close now because West Ham United do have an agreement in principle with Manchester United to sign the defender and their former captain, Harry Maguire, in a deal that is worth around £30 million. We know that bid worth £30 million went in last week. We weren't given information at the time whether it was accepted or rejected, but we know that talks continued potentially over the structure and the conditions of that deal, and it is now agreed between the two clubs. Personal terms, they were expected potentially to be a stumbling block in this deal, but we're told now that they are now not expected to be a problem. It's not a completely done deal as yet because there's still work to do on the finer details of his exit from Manchester United, but we understand now that West Ham United are now cautiously optimistic that Harry Maguire will become their player sooner rather than later.
And are they going to replace him?
Well, look, we said during the week that Manchester United's bulk of their transfer business had been done already following the arrivals of Onana, Mason Mount and Rasmus Højlund. There would have to be departures if they were going to replenish that squad again. There's a potential departure now with Harry Maguire. Now, we're told that Manchester United are continuing due diligence, is how it's been described to me, on a number of defenders if and when Harry Maguire leaves. And, of course, Eric Bailly, of course, because he's still in the United squad. His representatives have been talking to Al Nassr. And we're told that Bayern Munich's Benjamin Pavard has emerged as a strong option for Manchester United. Now, interestingly, Pavard has entered the final year of his contract. There has been interest from Manchester City, of course, because there was a talk that Bayern Munich were going to buy Kyle Walker and Manchester City wanted to replace him with Pavard. And we also reported that Kyle Walker, it looks like he's going to stay at Manchester City, but it hasn't changed the view of Pavard. He wants to leave Bayern Munich. It is definitely one to watch, and it could accelerate this one if and when Harry Maguire leaves the club. OK, all right, Mark, are they, Manchester United, looking at anybody else to come in?
Well, like Dharmesh said, they're doing due diligence on a number of players. Very rarely do you have just one target and one target only. Another player that's been brought to our attention to keep an eye on is the Nice centre-back, Jean-Claire Todibo. He is 23 years old, joined Barcelona in January 2019, and then had a series of loan spells at Schalke, Benfica and Nice before signing permanently there last year for €8.5 million. He got 3 red cards last season. So that gives you an indication that he's either nice and aggressive or he gets his timing a little bit wrong. But he's a player that Manchester United have been doing a little bit of due diligence on. They've made contact with the representatives of the player just to discuss what the deal potentially would be. He's an athletic, dynamic centre-back. So someone that's comfortable on the ball, someone that is not physically imposing and will be successful in the air, but someone that can play on the deck. Perhaps takes one or two, risks when he wants to come out and play. So there's a mistake potentially in the locker there. But certainly he's been playing at the highest level. He's got some good experience. Barcelona signed him for a reason, because he's potentially quite a cultured defender. Whether he'll fit into the structure and regime of Manchester United and Erik ten Hag would be a big question mark.
Okay.
But no question, he's a player that they've made contact with.
Okay, great. And what's the story with Johnny Evans? Is he still around? Is he going to be still around?
Yeah, fascinating this. Johnny Evans, 3 Premier League titles with Manchester United. Sir Alex Ferguson spoke so highly about the player. He came back on a short-term deal for pre-season. There is still time to run on that short-term deal. But, of course, there is potential that they could say to him, look, we like you around the group. You've got bags of experience. You know how to win the Premier League. And you would add to our defensive options. We've got Champions League football. We've got Premier League football. So that is one to monitor. Nothing off the table. No talks of an extension at this stage. But, of course, if they lose centre-backs, then that could be a nice, easy option.
OK. Let's go back to West Ham. Lost Declan Rice. We're hearing that Manchester City are after Paqueta. Is that going to happen?
Oh, I mean, we were bringing good news, weren't we, with Harry Maguire potentially agreeing that deal with West Ham. But with that, there's a little bit of bad news as well, because West Ham United have now received an initial approach from Manchester City about their Brazilian midfielder, Lucas Paqueta. Now, we are told that what was verbally proposed, it should be noted here, there wasn't a formal bid from Manchester City, but what was verbally proposed was in no way deemed acceptable. That was the phrase that I was given earlier on this morning. It is thought that West Ham will not even consider selling Lucas Paqueta unless there were bids of around the £85 million plus mark. That's not to say that if someone gets to that figure, yes, you can go. They don't want to sell Lucas Paqueta for obvious reasons. He's still got 4 years left on his contract. There's no real pressure to sell him. But the bad news in one way is, because of this interest, we're told that Paqueta's head has been turned. It's not surprising that it would be. The treble winners are coming in for you. You get a chance to play under Pep Guardiola, get a chance to play for Manchester City. But Manchester City, if they are to get anywhere near what West Ham are valuing, we think they're going to have to go much, much higher than what they've been verbally proposing so far.
I want to stay with midfielders. James Ward-Prowse, is he going to get his move to West Ham?
It's edging closer. It certainly feels like this is a deal that is very close to happening now, because West Ham and Southampton have a broad agreement with regards to a deal for James Ward-Prowse. You have to remember is the first offer from West Ham was rejected. The second offer of £30 million was rejected. But this third offer, also worth £30 million, has been accepted in principle, and it's because there's been a restructuring of the payments. Now, we don't know the details as to the restructure. It could be more money up front, less in add-ons. It could be paid over 12 months instead of 24 months. We don't know those details, but all we know that there is an agreement in principle. This is not expected to be a problem in terms of personals. We know that James Ward-Prowse is the highest paid player at Southampton, but would fit into the wage structure that West Ham currently have. And this brings to an end 400-plus appearances for a man that made his debut in 2011 at Crystal Palace in the League Cup. Funnily enough, I was at the game. I remember it now because we got shots of him before the match. Then, of course, Nigel Adkins gave him his Premier League debut in August 2012. Our latest information is that James Ward-Prowse won't play in the Championship for Russell Martin this weekend. The player would love to play and say his goodbyes, because for 12 years he's been a massive part of that football club. But he understands that this is a big deal, and of course one injury could put pay to everything. So that's the latest on James Ward-Prowse. OK, Dharmesh, on Monday we were saying Edson Alvarez really close to signing for West Ham. That's not happened. Anything for West Ham fans to worry about?
Not that I've been told. It should all happen. He'll sign a 5-year contract. We think that will happen today. He completed his medical yesterday. The contract will come with an option to extend for a further 12 months. Just a reminder of that deal, West Ham will pay Ajax an initial fee of £32 million plus a further £2 million in performance-related add-ons. All we're waiting for now, in effect, is that formal announcement. I was told yesterday that it could be today. I've not been given any confirmation that it is going to be today or tonight, but I don't want to say you because funny things can happen, but it does seem it's a case of when and not if Edson Alvarez will move from Ajax officially and become a West Ham United player.
OK, I'm going to break off there because I've got some breaking news for you. Just reached us. Reece James has just been named the new captain of Chelsea. Reece James, Chelsea's new captain. So a question for you, Mark. Will he be captaining Moises Caicedo?
That is a big question. I've got some breaking news which I'm going to bring to you in 5 minutes as well, which is fascinating because that is one of these transfers that goes in one direction. You think it's done and dusted. No. New club at the table.
I want it before 5 minutes, so tilt me Caicedo and then tell us.
So Moises Caicedo. We know that Chelsea are in the market for 2 of potentially 4 midfielders. Romeo Lavia, Michael Elise, Moises Caicedo, Tyler Adams. The top of that list, the man you've mentioned there, Moises Caicedo. Now, we know that Chelsea haven't met the valuation that Brighton have put on the player. They've never actually publicly said, or privately said, this is what we're looking for. We understand it to be £100 million. That's what Declan Rice went for. That's what they believe he is worth. Chelsea are preparing another bid. Sources close to the football club at Brighton are saying that they don't believe Chelsea will get to where they would like to be should they decide to sell Moises Caicedo, which they don't want to do, of course. So it's one of those, it's backing and forthing at the moment. We're just waiting to see how things develop. But our information as of today, that Chelsea are preparing another offer.
Right, before we go on, you can't be teasing us like that. What have you got?
I just want to confirm something before we say it on telly.
Right.
I'll play the game here.
That's a tease, that.
It is.
I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that.
I like it. It's a good story.
All right, so let's go back to Caicedo. If not Caicedo, Tyler Adams, is that a goer?
Yeah, this is one of the 4 midfielders that potentially Chelsea could be looking at. The latest situation is talks are ongoing behind the scenes at Chelsea. They're just deciding how they want to approach this one because we know that Tyler Adams has a release clause of £20 million in his current Leeds contract. But of course, they have the option to pay that, as the clause suggests, or they could say to Leeds, we just want to have a little chat. Can we restructure this? Sometimes clubs often pay a little bit more money just to get the terms more favourable to them. But that's the latest situation there. He's still very much on their radar. They're interested in signing him, but they're just waiting to see whether they can pay the release clause or approach them and say, let's do a deal.
Chelsea did this before earlier on in this transfer window when they signed Nicholas Jackson from Villarreal. Yeah. They didn't meet the release clause, but they actually ended up paying a little bit more. And everyone's saying, why are you paying more? It's because the structure of the payment suited Chelsea a little bit more, and Villarreal ended up getting a bit more money than the release clause, so everyone was happy.
Yeah, indeed. Look, let's talk Wolves. Manager swap this time. Lopetegui gone, O'Neill in. Before I ask you why O'Neill, is he going to have, we're talking transfers, is he going to be able to bring anybody in?
I think you have to look back at the statement from the owners last week that give you a very clear indication as to their financial position. They're very, very tight FFP-wise. They have to try and raise some funds. They cannot spend a lot of money. And let's be honest, Julen Lopetegui would have stayed at the club if he had a war chest, if he could build on the 13th place finish in the Premier League last season. He would have been quite keen to try and, push the football club on. But obviously, there's a reason why he's walked away and decided that that isn't the right opportunity for him because he hasn't got any funds to spend in the window. So it's going to be a real challenge for Gary O'Neill. He's not got a lot of money, if any. They're going to have to be very careful with what they spend. They're going to have to get creative in the transfer window, free transfers and players that aren't going to cost a lot on loan with very little loan fees. So that's the situation. But Gary O'Neill's a good manager that can pull the very best out of young players on the training pitch. He did that at Bournemouth. He'll want to get working with that squad. I think there are a lot of talented players at Wolves there, but he's going to have to be at his very best to get them competing.
Incidentally, love the use of war chest, old school. All right, let's take a break. Listen, when we come back, still so much to talk about. I'm on 2, I'm over there. It's miles away, I'm on 2. All right, we've got loads coming up. Harry Kane, we will talk Harry Kane this time. We'll talk Arsenal and the Premier League return for Ross Barkley. That and more to come. See you in a bit.
Sky Mobile sponsors the transfer window on Sky Sports News.
Hello again. You know, I started the show and I said Harry Kane when I meant Harry Maguire. Now I do mean Harry Kane. Paul Gilmore is here. Paul, they spoke all overnight about Harry Kane, the two parties. They're still talking. What on earth have they still got to talk about?
Yeah, that's right. As of this evening, we're told negotiations between Bayern Munich and Tottenham over the England captain Harry Kane still ongoing. And yes, those talks, of course, centre around the valuation, and there has been a gap consistently throughout this. The gap is closing. The latest Bayern Munich offer, as we know, that was rejected by Tottenham, was around £86 million mark. Bayern Munich now willing to pay around £95 million, and that's what those talks have centred on. Not just the valuation, but also structure of the deal, with Tottenham believed to be keen on a more of a sort of sizable upfront payment, if you like. And the fact that I think what's happening here is the fact that both clubs still in active negotiations. What that means, Bayern Munich clearly still believe that Harry Kane wants to join them, and that's why they're still at the negotiating table. Tottenham are still worried about losing him on a free to a Premier League rival next summer, and with no indication that he's going to sign a new contract, that's why they're still at the negotiating table. Of course, what this means, again, is that if a deal is agreed, Harry Kane will have a decision to make. And in the last few days, we have been hearing that he is leaning towards staying at Tottenham.
Really? Leaning towards staying after all of this?
After all of this. But again, the reasons we've been given for that, he's enjoying life under Ange Postecoglou. I think Ange Postecoglou has impressed him, the philosophy, the training, but also the fact that, remember, Bayern Munich did upset Tottenham with the ultimatum, that final offer tactic that they have used many times in negotiations in the past. It didn't work with Tottenham. Tottenham won't be pushed around, and they rejected that offer. And I think it looked like, because of they were talking about this final offer, it looked like this was all, the negotiations were all going to fall apart, and that would mean Kane was going to stay. And I guess he was trying to get his mindset ready to begin the Premier League season with Tottenham. But I think what we're hearing as of last night, those talks were ongoing last night, Tuesday night, into the early hours of Wednesday morning. They are continuing this afternoon. And the fact that those talks are active shows that there is still a possibility that a deal could be agreed. And then, of course, it is over to Harry Kane to make his final decision, if that happens.
And just to confirm, very briefly, so they could go through all this and Harry Kane could say, do you know what, I'm staying. Is that right?
We are at the stage that all options are on the table. Bayern clearly still believe that he wants to go to them, but that's the stage we're at the moment. It's gone a little bit quiet in the last 24 hours as these negotiations progress, but crucially, still no deal agreed between the clubs.
Paul Gilmore, thank you very much, Paul, right in amongst these negotiations. So much to do then. So, will Harry Kane be involved in Tottenham's opening game of the season? That was the deadline that Kane set. Do you remember? He said, if it's not done by the time we play Brentford, I'm staying. We will see what happens. It is live on Sky Sports Premier League and Sky Sports Main Event from 1 on Super Sunday. It will be absolutely fascinating. As is this, Dharmesh, I want to talk Arsenal. What's going on with David Raya? Is this nearly done too? Yeah,
it's getting closer now. We're expecting Arsenal to finalise that deal to sign the Brentford keeper, David Raya, for a fee that would be guaranteed payment of around £30 million. Remember, Brentford were asking for around £40 million, but he's entered the final year of his contract. That, coupled with the fact that David Raya made it clear to Brentford that once Arsenal became interested, he wanted to go there. And a lot of people have been asking the question, what happens to Aaron Ramsdale? Well, Mikel Arteta has made it clear with everyone in his squad, no one is guaranteed a first-team place. He wants competition all the way around the pitch. That includes in his goalkeeping department. That means that they effectively have two number ones in Raya and Ramsdale, and they'll be fighting out to see who will be starting for Arsenal.
Remember that old song, There May Be Trouble Ahead?
There may be,
but... a little prediction right here.
There could well be. Look, you never know. But the fact of the matter is, I think Arsenal have looked at that area and thought maybe Aaron Ramsdale wasn't being pushed as much as he should have been last season, and that was when Matt Turner was their number 2. Matt Turner has now actually left the club because Nottingham Forest confirmed that signing for £10 million in all. It's an initial £7 million payment that they'll pay to Arsenal, plus £3 million in performance-related add-ons. It's a 4-year contract, and his first game, Saturday lunchtime, if he's selected, Matt Turner will be in goal for Nottingham Forest at the Emirates against Arsenal.
Brilliant. Right, Mark McAdam, you were teasing us in the last part. Can you now break the news you weren't sure you could break?
Yes, this
Right.
is significant. This morning, we reported that Leeds had agreed a deal with Norwich City for the right-back Max Aarons. He was headed to Leeds. Guess what? Word of the summer, hijack.
No.
Bournemouth have hijacked the deal. He is now headed down to the south coast after Bournemouth agreed a deal with Norwich City, which we understand to be an initial £7 million that could rise to £11 million. He is now headed down to the south coast. So all eyes on Leeds. They thought they had a new right-back. No, he's headed to Bournemouth. That was the significant news that got broken just a few moments ago. But I wanted to just double-check and triple-check before we said it on the telly. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble. And there's been some more breaking news as well, and it concerns a side that got promoted from the Championship, Burnley, last season. They have confirmed the signing of Norwegian international Sander Berge from Sheffield United for an undisclosed fee. The 25-year-old has signed a 4-year deal at Turf Moor and becomes Vincent Kompany's 8th new summer signing. So there you go. Max Aarons headed down south, Sander Berge in at Burnley. It's all happening. We love a hijack.
Max Aarons, a surprise. Another surprise, Ross Barkley popping up at Luton. Didn't see that coming.
Do you know what the biggest surprise is? In this day and age, you cannot keep anything a secret in football. Everything is out there on social media, and Dharmesh and all of the team here do their best to find out what's going on. That's what we do. So for Luton Town to surprise everyone with the announcement of Ross Barkley is quite brilliant. 33 England caps. Played in the World Cup in 2014, 232 appearances in the Premier League, a free agent. This will go through subject to international clearance, and he's just 29 as well. Much needed Premier League experience.
Things haven't gone well since Everton, though, have they?
No, they haven't, and I think that could be to Luton's benefit. They've got a player there that's hungry and desperate to prove to people he is still able to operate at the very highest level. And Rob Edwards said in the official club announcement today, he brings experience and the X factor.
Speaking of X factor, have Fulham got Callum Hudson-Odoi yet?
Close. They're close now to finalising a deal with Chelsea over the signing of Hudson-Odoi. There's a growing optimism now that a deal can be struck within the next 24 to 48 hours. Personal terms, not expected to be a problem. It was all to do with that fee. What Chelsea wanted and what Fulham were prepared to pay, it appears they're edging ever closer now to a compromise on that fee so that Callum Hudson-Odoi can become a Fulham player. We know he was into the final year of his contract, and from the outset of this transfer window, we knew he was going to be leaving Chelsea, and we knew he was going to be moving on, not part of Mauricio Pochettino's long-term plans. He's had a couple of loan spells away from Chelsea. I think what he wanted to do was move from Chelsea and get a permanent deal somewhere so that he can really kickstart his career from now on.
10 seconds. Give me a very quick line on Chuba Akpom. What's going on?
Yeah, this is interesting because Lons have made an offer for the Middlesbrough striker. Sources claim that it's an £8 million offer. He's into the final year of his contract. As it stands, he's not expected to sign a new one.
Fam, we've packed it all in. We're back at 7 with much, much more. Sky Sports News is next. See you.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older, then we wouldn't have to wait so long? And wouldn't it be nice to live together?
Sky Mobile sponsors the transfer window on Sky Sports News.
Right then, let me show you around. This is where the action happens. The great thing about this job, every day is different. It's our new piece of kit. Good enough. It can be hard work here, but we know how to have a laugh. So then, when can you start?
Today I might catch my reflection, then explore every inch of my kingdom. It's non-stop action for me, and I'm certain that it's great
Feel it.
to be a cat.
Try Felix Deliciously Sliced, floating in flavour, packed with protein. Purina.
Finances can feel a bit puzzling, like working out the right protection for your home and family. Or feeling unsure if your pension is on the right path. Thankfully, Aviva can help make these conundrums click, helping solve your financial puzzles. It takes Aviva.
Why are we we still reaching for period pads to deal with we? Tenna discreet, ultra-thin pads might look the same, but they're designed to work differently, so you can stay dry for up to 12 hours.
Upgrade your protection with our discreet pads range. Peace of mind, day and night. Tenna.
At Oak Furnitureland, we know you want furniture that looks great. And what's on the inside really matters too. That's why all our furniture